Welcome, everybody, to our Leaders in Housing Counseling call. We've got a pretty good agenda today, so I want to dive in right away. We're going to do the latest on federal funding update. We bring everybody up to speed on Brian Montgomery's nomination for FHA Commissioner and the work we're doing there, and how you can help out. And then we'll spend a few minutes on, we've talked about the CoreLogic, Credco, NHRC program and specifics of how it works on credit reporting. They have a range of other credit products, and so so Tammy Foster is joining us again for give us kind of an overview of what those are. I sent you an email this morning, which will include the materials we're going over. And then the bulk of the call will be on an innovative program in our series, Innovations in Housing Counseling. We'll have Ralphine Caldwell from the Housing Partnership in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're running the city's down payment assistance program, which I'm sure seems like a very ambitious program for many people, but they've been quite successful at it. And Ralphine will give us both how they got there and what you need to know if you're interested in trying to do something like this. But fits into that whole, we need to diversify our business to really survive in the current environment. So with that note, and then we'll do a plug for joining NHRC. And I have to say that we've had a very good start to the year. Maybe on the next call, we'll list off the list of new members, but it's been great. And we really appreciate the support. So let's dive right in. So Matthew, federal funding.
So, we'll just quickly run through where we are with FY 2019. So we are done with the kind of House side for now, and our attention is now turned to the Senate. They do it just a little bit later. So we're basically at the stage where there's kind of two things that need to happen. One is senators are now working on their programmatic request letters that they individually send to the THUD subcommittee, where they say, these are my 5 or 10, priorities for the THUD bill. So need to be reaching out to Senate offices, asking them to include $65 million for housing counseling assistance in those letters. And then probably tomorrow, Senator Menendez's office will circulate around a Dear Colleague letter, which is very similar, but it's basically a sign-on letter that goes to the THUD subcommittee that will ask for $65 million for housing counseling assistance. So I will circulate that when we get it from his office to Senator Menendez's office tomorrow. It would be great if folks on the call can be reaching out to Senate offices and encouraging them to include $65 million in their programmatic request letter to THUD and to sign on to the Senator Menendez Dear Colleague letter. I think that's it.
And just to plug it one more time, this is really important. This is what gets us into the appropriations process, and it would be very helpful right now to especially get Republican senators to include housing counseling on their list. Several of them do, and we have Republican support. But many of the senators won't put it on unless they're specifically asked by local constituents. So they've gotten a letter from us, the sign-on letter that we circulated, but your request will make it much more likely that we'll make that list. So very, very valuable. This is how it all works. So Matthew, do you want to do it quickly on Brian Montgomery?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to. So I'll just quickly say that, essentially things have just kind of stalled out. There's been, and we've reported kind of different things at different times, but the short of it at the moment is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of will on the Republican side to, make this a priority, to put Brian Montgomery on the calendar and have some number of hours of debate. So really the pressure at this point needs to be on Republican members. So, and you can do this at the same time that you're reaching out on the Dear Colleague and the federal funding. It would be very helpful to also say, we need you to go to leadership, and this is just in the Senate, we need you to go to leadership and tell them that we need an FHA commissioner, and it needs to be a top priority that we get Brian Montgomery confirmed. A few places if there are folks on the call from any of Texas, which is Senator Cornyn, Kentucky, Senator McConnell, Idaho, Senator Crapo, who's the Banking Committee chair, and South Carolina, Senator Scott is the committee of the chair of the Housing Subcommittee. If you're in any of those states, Texas, Kentucky, Idaho, South Carolina, it would be really helpful if you could reach out to me. We would love to try to organize a call with the housing staffer and just, get some constituents on who can express, make the case for why we really need to move forward with Brian Montgomery.
We've been.
There was just a question. So for the funding, there's everybody, all offices should be focused on, and the ones this is just in response to a question. The 4 offices I just named for Brian Montgomery.
Good. And Brian, so FHA commissioner is a key position. Brian Montgomery is somebody we've worked with in the past. He was in the second Bush administration, and he knows housing counseling well. Many of us have had a long-term relationship with him, a working relationship, and he's a critical role in all this, and we think a kind of a moderate, very helpful voice in positioning housing counseling. One thing I think we'll mention, there's nothing to do on this, but I know in the past, we've several years ago, there was a lot of talk about the HOF initiative, which was a way of incentivizing people to go to FHA to get housing counseling by getting a reduction in the MIP and the mortgage insurance premium. Interestingly enough, in the 2018 omnibus, the HOC language was taken out. So that's very good news for us in general. There's nothing we're going to do on this now. The environment isn't right for it, certainly until there's an FHA commissioner. But I thought it'd be good news to share with people that that this is something that's happened. We absolutely do not think it's the right time to raise this as a policy issue until we have more of these pieces in place. But it's important that people know that it's a small piece of progress on an important issue to us.
And just to, in case it wasn't totally clear, the issue was that they had included in past budgets language prohibiting HUD from using any of their funding to do a HAWC program. And so they've now lifted that prohibition, which creates obviously the opportunity if there was the will, but that's the trickier part at this point.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Okay, well, let's move on quickly. So as hopefully everybody's familiar with now, we have a new membership benefit of a discounted rate on our credit reports, and especially with CoreLogic, and it's a deep discount. It's quite favorable for people, and we have already gotten the first number of groups to adopt the new pricing schedule, and more will be coming online as they get caught up on their membership or join. And we're very glad. It seems to be going quite well. And we've done a couple briefings on this, and those are recorded. So certainly, if you want to get caught up to speed, you can go to onto our website and go into the media library. There's and look for the webinar on Credco and on CoreLogic Credco and making application if you aren't a current user. So there's some background you can use if you want. And we're certainly glad to help in any way we can. But what we thought would be helpful also is that Credco has a suite of credit tools, and so doing a kind of a high-level summary of what those are, so that people are aware on top of the regular tri-merge credit report that most of us use. So with that, we were going to have Tammy join us. Tammy, are you with us?
I am, and thank you so much for having me on this. I much appreciate it. And yes, I must say that the special pricing is very popular. So I look forward to working with those that I haven't worked with yet, and for those Can't wait to speak with you. So we do have a special email set up for all of the members that are a part of NHRC. It's on the page there. Feel free to email any questions, any compliance questions, anything that you have questions on. You're certainly welcome to send an email to that email address. And you still also could use my email address as well. And that's still available if you want to contact me directly. So that's that. We did do the compliance call last week, which was very informative. I actually walked through page by page on the compliance process and the setup process. So if there's any members on this call that haven't signed up yet or need some assistance in getting signed up on the Credco side, well, you're welcome to listen to that call that Bruce mentioned, or email us and we can assist you with that as well. Or if you need a copy of the compliance paperwork, we can get that for you as well. Okay, so if we can go to the next slide. Matthew, I don't know if you gave me.
I don't think we have any slides for you.
Oh, okay.
I think there must have been a miscommunication. Do I have slides that you want me to put up?
Well, I was going to go over the credit expert and the sample reports and the consumer piece, but I'm assuming that everyone has received the email in regards to that. Okay. So just real quick.
I will try. I'll work on trying to get that pulled up for you.
Okay. I do really well without the slides too. So I want to bring in information on this call specific to Credit Expert. Credit Expert is a score simulation tool. It's used when you're counseling your clients, and the best part about it is it actually gives a action plan that the applicants can walk away with, and that way they know exactly what they need to do in order to get their score up. There's a couple of products within Credit Expert. The main one is called Credit Expert Essentials. So Essentials is $2.50. It works mainly at looking at the balances as a whole. So you'll see when you're working within Essentials, you can put in how much available cash they have. It'll come back. It'll tell you what the potential score change would be, how much cash is actually going to be required, and where to specifically apply that amount of money to. Or you can also put in how much of a score increase you want. It'll come back and tell you if that score increase is possible, how much cash is actually needed, and where to apply it. So it's a really good tool to use if someone has some money that they've just come into. Maybe they've sold something or they've been given a gift of some sort, and they want to know where the best way to apply it to get the best increase in the score. So that would be Essentials. The second main one, oh, there it is. If you can go down a little bit. So the What If Simulator, that one looks mainly at the, there we go, yeah. So I'm not going to talk about Credit Expert Detectives. I have found that the Detectives account, the Detective product isn't as helpful and efficient as the other two. And I think that we probably are in the process of removing that product from being accessible. So we're not going to talk about Detectives. And then we have the Credit Expert What If Simulator. So the What If Simulator is really awesome because it allows you to go into the individual trade lines. You can modify the balance, the payment, the pay history, and you can actually modify the account being deleted. And then it'll tell you what the forecast would be on the actual score if those steps are taken. In addition to that, within the What If Simulator, you can also forecast a change within a length of time. So I know a lot of you work with clients for usually 4 to 6 months at least. So if you want to, you can actually simulate what that score is going to look like within a 6-month period. And it's taking into effect regular monthly payments that are being made. So that's a really good tool to use within the What If Simulator. Also, within the What If Simulator, you can simulate an account being added. So maybe they've recently gone out and bought a car, maybe they've opened a credit card, a loan of some sort. you can actually go into the What If simulator and simulate those new accounts, and it'll also tell you what the forecast would be on the score. And if I forgot to mention, the What If simulator is $3. And again, with Essentials and with the What If simulator, it does provide an action plan. You can print out the action plan, and you can provide that to the applicant or consumer. So with that, I'll open up to questions. Any questions so far regarding Credit Expert?
So I'll just remind folks that you can ask questions using the question box, so let us know if you have any questions for Tammy. So far, there's just some personal affirmation. Someone said they've been working with you for years, and you are great, very responsive.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Did you say that this would be $3 per client?
The What If simulator is $3, and the Essentials is $2.50. So when you're actually in and ordering these products, you have to select which applicant, which bureau, and which product, and that would be either the $2.50 or the $3. And then you have 30 days from the date you've pulled the credit report to run additional simulations at no cost unless you change the applicant, the bureau, or the product. And we can do a side training just on Credit Expert at some point if there's enough interest in that. But you'll see when you're in Credit Expert, it'll say run existing, which is an indication that there's no cost, or run new, which is an indication that there is a cost.
Great. And I think you just addressed this in your answer, but is this a one-time fee per customer?
It depends on how many times you're doing it and if you've pulled multiple credit reports. Right? So if you're going into Essentials maybe for Equifax, and then later on you decide, okay, let's do Equifax with the What If simulator, then you'd be charged the $2.50 for Essentials and the $3 for the What If.
And the charge is in addition to the charge for the Tri-Merge report, correct?
Yes, correct. In addition to the cost of the credit report.
Great. Just give folks another second if there's any last minute questions, but that is all for now.
Awesome. So the next thing I kind of just wanted to go over, because there has been a few questions in regards to this, would be the sample reports. So yeah, let's look at this one first. So for those of you that currently use Counselor Max, I must say, and I apologize, Counselor Max is a little outdated. They require our older format, and this is the format of the credit report that you would get when you actually are in Counselor Max pulling the credit report. I believe Bruce has already emailed these samples to you. If not, you can email that email box and we can send you a copy. But basically, I'm assuming everyone pretty much understands how to read a credit report. If not, there's call outs on each section for you guys to actually see what those sections mean, what they pertain to. There's also a key at the back of the sample report so you can see what the different codes mean and the individual trade lines as well. So this is only for the Counselor Max users. If you can go to the other sample, please. So this is a sample of a credit report that the users that use Home Counselor Online, if they use credco.com, and if they pull the report from RX Office. This is our newer format. It has nice colored codes and it has links. The best part about this particular sample is everything that is derogatory or has an alert is going to be in red, which is kind of nice. This also has all of the call outs so that you can make reference to these numbers down below, and it'll give you a description of what those mean. Also at the back of this sample is a trade line key as well, so that you can look to see what the different codes mean on the individual trade lines. So that's a really quick overview of our sample reports. I hope everyone, I'm assuming everyone knows how to read them, but just in case you needed to see what they actually look like, especially for those that haven't quite signed up yet and are inquiring about how to, how our reports look. So any questions? regarding the
First, someone
samples.
seconded they've really appreciated CoreLogic and you personally. And then somebody asked what a supplement upgrade is.
So if you go up a little bit further on this page that we're looking at, there's a link on these credit reports. There we go, right there. Item number 1, supplement upgrade. So if you were to click on that, it would take you to the credco.com website, and it would be where you can request a supplement. Our supplements, we actually call them a Merge Plus. It's actually not a product that credit counseling agencies should be ordering because they're not actually doing a loan. It's something where if you want us at CoreLogic Credco to contact the creditor to verify something, we can do that. But again, it's usually not something that a counseling agency would ever need or require.
Great. And then somebody asked for Counselor Max users, are they able to pull their credit report through credco.com instead of Counselor Max to get the newer version?
Yes, so if the credit report was originated from within Counselor Max, they are able to go into the credco.com site and re-access it to get the nicer format. Yes.
Great. That's, is trended data available? Is a supplemental judgments liens report available?
So let's talk about trended data first. So trended data, it can be if a credit counseling agency wants it. Since trended data started a little over a year or so ago, it's not a requirement for credit counseling agencies. If you want it, we can do it, but it's going to increase the costs of your credit reports by a couple of dollars. So if you're currently pulling credit reports, you want the trended data, let me know, and I can get that added for you. Just keep in mind there's extra costs that I'm not sure everyone wants to incur. And then the other question regarding judgments and public records. So based on the New York Attorney General's office that happened a couple of years ago, I think from now, the bureaus, they basically told the bureaus, if you're not able to validate at least 3 forms of identity, you're not permitted to report it on the credit report. So because of that, we're seeing that a lot of the public records and a lot of trade lines are no longer reporting on the credit report. And then most recently, I want to say this past week, we received a notice from the bureaus indicating that they're going to completely remove tax liens from the credit reports. We do have a product available if you want to receive public records and tax liens and so forth, but since you guys are only doing credit counseling and it's not going to show up on a credit report either when they apply for a mortgage loan, honestly, I don't think that that's something that you're going to want to incur an additional cost for. But if you do want that particular product, it's called Loan Safe. And if you do want it, just let me know. And that will allow you to do those additional searches for the judgments and public records.
Sorry, I muted myself. If there's if there's a warning that an additional Social Security number associated, what exactly does that mean? There is a follow-up of a Social Security number variation of 3 or more digits.
So this happens a lot with Experian because now Experian is reporting to us the additional socials that they have on file for an applicant. As a mortgage broker or lender, they can submit and request a rapid recheck to get that fixed. As a credit counseling agency, you guys don't have access to that particular type of product. So the best way to resolve that is to have the consumer pull their personal credit report from Experian, usually via annualcreditreport.com or creditkarma.com, so that they can get their personal report and then contact that bureau. That bureau is more than likely going to ask that applicant to provide a copy or proof of their identity information. And that's the best way to get it resolved because there's no cost to the applicant.
Great. And could you just clarify, someone asked if you had said with the tax lien that all tax liens are being removed from the credit reports?
I believe so, yes. And I have to take a look at that notification We did send out a notification to all of our customers recently. I'd have to review that notice just to confirm, but yes, I believe it is. And I can email that notice to you guys,
Great,
to you and Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah, we can follow up on some of these questions. This may be for Tammy or maybe from Bruce, but if someone's already using Credco, what's the process for them to get the discount with their NHRC membership? So maybe just Bruce, if you want to run through if they're not an NHRC member and if they are already a member.
If they are already a member, we just have to make sure that you're caught up on your membership dues, and we will send I'm sending weekly now emails to Tammy to bring up those new members and renewals that are eligible for the discount. For somebody who's not a member of NHRC, shoot us an email and we'll send you the membership application. There's membership dues based on the size of your housing counseling budget, and as soon as we get it, we will, within a few days, you'll be part of the weekly list we're sending into Tammy. Now, if you're not using Credco currently, then there's an application process. That's what we did the webinar on last week, and we'll send you the application. You'll get an acknowledgement from me, which will have the application with it, as well as a notice about that can be included in the application that you're a member in good standing. So hopefully that answered all the potential questions.
Yeah, yep. I thought maybe just to recap on that, if anyone doesn't have the pricing, just so you know, when you are a member of NHRC for a 3-bureau, it's $13.72. Excuse me, $13.72, and that's per applicant. There's a bureau surcharge added to that of 90 cents per applicant. And depending upon which client management tool that you're using, there are third-party fees associated with Counselor Max and with RX Office.
Great. That is all the questions.
One more piece that I'd like to quickly go over is if you can, Matthew, go over to the tab for consumer services. So when a credit report is pulled from us, we do have consumer services for those applicants. So this is a tool that you can give your applicants. They're welcome to contact us. We can do a couple of things for them. Number one, we can mail them a copy of the credit report that you've pulled at no cost. Number two, we can assist with dispute resolution. So if there are any data within the credit report that the applicants want to dispute, they're welcome to contact us, and we can assist them in the dispute process at no cost. And the phone number is there on the slide. Oh. Yeah, 800-637-2422. Oh, and our address is on there too, Scripps Ranch Boulevard in San Diego. And that's it.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Tammy. It's all been working quite well, so we're very pleased. And please feel free to reach out to us if you have questions after the webinar. We're very interested in making this all work as smoothly as possible for everybody. Well, with that note, we have perfect timing here. Ready? Let's move on to our next item on the agenda. So this is another episode of our Innovations in Housing Counseling series, where we are really trying to put in front of the housing counseling community innovative programs, groundbreaking programs, which generate new opportunities, new income, new ways of helping our clients. All of which are within the mission of the broad mission of housing counseling agencies. And I think a very powerful example of this is the down payment assistance program, which the Housing Partnership in Charlotte has been running for the sounds like the city and the county. Ralphine, are you with us?
I am.
Excellent. Well, please, Ralphine, tell us all about it.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I'm Ralphine Caldwell. I'm with the Housing Partnership in Charlotte, North Carolina, and thank you all so much for allowing me to present to you regarding our partnership, an incredible partnership that we have with the city. Just to give you a little bit of background on the Housing Partnership, and Matthew, if you want to go to the next slide for me. The Housing Partnership, we've been in existence for about 30 years now, and like most organizations that are listening in, we were, created to expand housing opportunities for the city of Charlotte. We can best classify our work through RED, which stands for Revitalization, Education, and Development, as we work in key targeted neighborhoods through our development line of business, which is both real estate development, economic development, as well as we have a huge community engagement arm of the organization, in addition to our homeownership counseling and education program. To give you a brief overview of the House Charlotte program, I wanted to kind of give you an idea of, next slide. I wanted to kind of give you an idea of the actual program itself and the parameters of the program. First of all, House Charlotte provides for down payment assistance for home buyers who purchase within the city limits of Charlotte. And there, as you can see from the chart, there are varying degrees of funding from $8,500 for families that are less than 80% AMI up to $17,000. So we have varying degrees of financing, but also just to reference, so you can have a reference point, 80% AMI for a family of 4 here in Charlotte is about $56,000 a year. You can also see from this chart is the city has made a huge push for providing or expanding housing opportunities for their employees. So there is a special program that is up to $10,000 for what is classified as public service employees. And those employees are considered your city staff, so City of Charlotte staff, but that also includes Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. It includes county sheriff, county medical, as well as Charlotte area transit staff. So there's been a huge push to ensure that those employees receive some type of assistance, but also will be able to possibly be able to own a home in their near future. Next slide. Like most down payment assistance programs, the House Charlotte program has specific parameters, such as the loan term, which is 5, 10, or 15 years, and that depends on the actual amount of the down payment assistance, as well as there are specifics regarding when and in what instance the funds should be paid back. And I listed those instances there on the slide. And also the homebuyer education component. As most of you know, most of your down payment assistance programs requires homebuyer education, and this program is not any different. It does require 8 hours of homebuyer education and counseling. So a homebuyer that is going to receive House Charlotte assistance, anyone who is actually on the mortgage loan must receive that homeownership education. And I do want to note that these loans are serviced, these down payment assistance loans are serviced by the city. And in a minute, I'm going to explain to you actually how all of that works and the workflow, but our organization is not responsible for the loan after the closing and post-closing of the file. So we don't do anything after the home buyer closes on their home. Next. The sales price limits, there are sales price limits for the program, $224 for new construction property, and then $193 for existing. And this is an update from previous years. We had it a little bit lower, much lower actually in previous years, only because we, did a roundtable with some of our partners, some of the lenders, and obviously just paying attention to the market. So we were able to get the city to do an increase in the sales prices to be more, to really work better with what the current market is. Next. So, how did it get started? We have been, longstanding partners. The Housing Partnership has been longstanding partners with the city since our inception, actually 30 years ago. And because we already had a lending umbrella, we have originated loans In the past, as you can see from the slide, we've been originating loans since 1993. The city just felt like it was a natural fit for us to administer the program. And at that time, when we took over the program, the city really wanted their staff to focus on other initiatives and other projects. So it just made sense for them to have one of their nonprofit partners to be able to do the program. The House Charlotte program provides $231,000 annually to the organization. Those funds are paid to us by the city through unrestricted funds out of the city's budget. So it is a line item in the city's budget that's voted on every year by City Council. The one thing about Charlotte right now is the city has made a huge push to provide more affordable housing units on the ground in 3 years, actually 5,000 units in 3 years, which is very aggressive, but they're getting, they're really working towards that number. And House Charlotte obviously is one of the ways that they plan to be able to get those funds, in addition to obviously other things, other initiatives and things that they're going to be doing. Next slide. As you can see from this slide, the House Charlotte team takes the file from beginning to end upon receipt of the package from the first mortgage lender. So what happens is the lender actually submits the actual package to us, and then we actually process it. So we go through it, make sure the customer qualifies for the House Charlotte funds, and then we actually prepare and submit the closing package to the attorney. I do want to note a few things in regards to this, is that, we received the closing package back from the attorney's office. And when we receive that package back, we make sure that everything is in there. And from that point forward, the package is sent to the city, and the city then provides the servicing of the loan. The House Charlotte funds, they do not close in our name. It actually closes in the city of Charlotte's name. So therefore, they're funding it, and they're taking care of the servicing piece of it. So if someone has to pay it off because of the parameters, as I previously stated, then the city handles, all of that, getting the payoffs, all that kind of stuff. So we don't have anything to do with the file after that point. Next slide. I wanted to kind of show you the annual outcomes so that you can get a sense of the volume of work that is completed for the program. I'm, very proud of the team here at the Housing Partnership, because this chart, in my opinion, does speak volumes in regards to the work that's put into this program, and the city is aware of that as well. And we're really proud of being able to provide such assistance to the low to moderate income home buyers. As you can see from the chart, the average AMI over the years has been about 65% or so. That's kind of where we're at as far as the people who are coming in and being approved to be able to obtain the House Charlotte funding. As well as, I wanted to also point out that about 76% of the loans that we completed are for home buyers who have been less than 80% AMI. So as you can tell, obviously the program is really for the low to moderate income, that less than 80% AMI home buyer. And while we have some that are between 81% and 110%, 110% is the max for the program. But majority of the loans that we have completed have been for, and closed, have been for home buyers who are less than 80% AMI. Next slide. The House Charlotte program is funded by two different funding sources, one of which is home funds, which a lot of you are familiar with home funds. The city receives home funding, and they've received about $2 million in the last 2 years. Obviously, in previous years, they've received that as well. They also have funding for those loans that we do that in which the home buyer is over 80% AMI. Those funds come from local unrestricted funding, in addition to our annual contract agreement comes from that pot of money as well. Next slide. So if you ever wanted to do this program in your shop, I wanted to kind of give you an idea of some of the things which, that you need to consider. When we decided to do this program, we knew it was an extensive program, but we also knew that it was something that was a great partnership with our city, as well as it was going to allow us to serve a certain number of people through our program. So the first thing I would say to consider is licensing, state licensing, and checking with your state commissioner of banks to determine if there are any requirements of your doing that program that would kind of in which, you know, the lending laws and all of that, that for your particular state, you just kind of got to make sure that you're not going to be violating any of those, but also that you're in compliance with your state lending laws. So that would be the first thing that I would say do. Because we already had a lending umbrella, we already had the mortgage company, and I have my mortgage license as well as my team. So it was kind of an easy fit for us to you know, go ahead and do the program for that reason. Next slide. FHA certification. If you are administering a program such as this, in order for House Charlotte, this program, to be paired with FHA loans, HUD requires that the administrating agency be approved. Now, that was a change, I believe, from many years ago. It is a government program, which in most instances, government programs are exempt, but HUD now requires that you have a certain approval. And that, the name of that approval, which I did put on here, is the HUD's secondary financing approval. You know, we received the approval. We had to receive it back in 2011 when we started the program. The first one, I will admit, is extensive, so you should be aware of that. It is extensive. However, the subsequent recertification approvals are pretty straightforward. Once you've done one, you will have no problem with completing the rest. So you won't have a problem with that at all. And I'll be more than happy to share my experience with that if anyone wants to call me about that. I'm not going to expand too much on that. But once you receive these, this approval, it's a 2-year approval. There are 3 approvals that you can, 3 different initiatives that you will be able to get once you receive that. And one of which is, of course, to administer such a program with your city government. The other is to purchase HUD Homes as a nonprofit agency. So if our real estate development team wanted to go into some neighborhoods and do that, they could. And then the third is pairing our own down payment assistance with FHA loans. So when we got this approval, it really kind of gave us the initial approval that we really needed it for the House Charlotte program, our partnership with the city, but also it gave us some other avenues as well. Next slide. Staffing. You know, when we started the program, we did hire, obviously, staffing, and I have a team, an incredible team that some of which are totally devoted to the program, but there are others that spend a percentage of their time completing the program. And keeping in mind that those that, all staff are cross-trained, so there's never a lag in the processing of the loans or anything like that. Someone's taking vacation or out or that kind of thing. Everyone can step in and be able to complete the process. As you all know, are in lending or know or work with customers, you know that, you know, closings are still going to happen. So we have a great team that are cross-trained, so anyone can work in any position. I would say that if you're going to do this, just consider the volume of not just, you know, the files coming in, but also consider the volume of calls, because we handle all of the inquiries for the program, email inquiries, all of that. So be sure that you take all of that into consideration if you wanted to do such a program with your city government. Technology. Upgrading our technology was just necessary for handling such a large volume program. I mean, the obvious, you know, when we started this was document scanning and having separate emails for the particular program, as well as a separate phone number. So we have a phone number in which they call and it goes straight to the House Charlotte department. But there was one thing that we did do that was a little bit different, and that's the SharePoint system. We added a SharePoint system to our database. So basically, lenders upload their packages into a SharePoint system, into our system via, it's a secured file folder that's specific to that lender. And then we receive notification of that upload, and we're able to pull the package for processing. So the lenders don't drop off packages. We don't allow that. they actually have to upload the package into the SharePoint system, and we pull it down so that we can be able to start the processing of the file. The same works for the attorneys. Once we approve the loan and all is well with the loan, our team uploads the closing package to the prospective attorney's file folder in the SharePoint system, and then the attorney can go into that system and pull the closing package for closing. So that way, the attorney typically has our closing package way before closing, and because our documents are not dated, so they have it way before closing, so they're able to go ahead and start working on the things that they need to work on to complete the closing. Marketing. You know, we provide a significant amount of outreach for House Charlotte for this program, and you know, even though we do provide so much outreach, our outreach also includes marketing our entire homeownership counseling and education program. So when we're doing anything House Charlotte, we are able to not only advertise for that program, but we advertise our entire program, which helps with our overall customer intake numbers. Some of the events that we've completed, particularly in this past year, we started Homeownership 101 classes for city employees. As I discussed with you earlier, the city is making a huge push to expand housing opportunities, homeownership opportunities for city employees and Charlotte-Mecklenburg school employees. So we've had seminars for employees, and we average about 30 per session for those seminars, which we're really excited about being able to continue that with the city. In addition, we've had a great relationship with our Realtor Association. We provide House Charlotte presentations to our realtors based on our great partnership with the Charlotte Regional Realtor Association. And this past November, we were able to have the seminar, hold a House Charlotte seminar, which received CE, Continuing Education Credit for Realtors, which was a huge hit because, as we all know, realtors want to, you know, be able to get that continuing education credit to go ahead and get it out the way, and they were able to attend. We had about 90 realtors. We did get a facility to do that. We had about 90 realtors that attended and were able to receive continuing education credit, and we're now in talks with the Realtor Association to see if we can get the actual House Charlotte seminar continuously approved, permanently approved to offer continuing education credit. Lessons learned. You know, when we started this program, you know, one of the things that we knew we needed to do was provide training to loan officers as well as to the realtors. So what we did is we incorporated a loan officer training and an annual continuing education training for loan officers, and that ensures that, and loan officers and you know, sometimes their processes sit in on these as well, but particularly for the loan officers. So a loan officer cannot submit a House Charlotte package to us unless we see that they have received the appropriate education from us. And that just ensures that we're not receiving packages, and they're not, you know, we're not receiving packages that are kind of thrown at us, for lack of a better term. And they're a little bit more complete files. So, you know, that helped and has helped with that. Streamlining the process, and I said streamline 3 times on the slide because it's really important for you to look at your flow frequently to ensure your files are moving along at an appropriate time. For example, realtors are informed about 4 times throughout the process to ensure they're kept up to date on their home buyer. We did that because after talking with the realtors said, hey, you know, when we send a file over, how do we know that it's at this stage and this stage? And so there are 4 separate emails that are sent to the realtor to ensure the realtor knows what's going on. But it also keeps them, you know, I hate to say it, from calling. You know, it cuts down on the number of calls that we get because we're keeping everyone informed about the process. The other I want to, you know, kind of you know, talk about is you know, providing the city with feedback. We completed a roundtable with key loan officers and realtors who use the program to determine best practices and anything that we felt like we needed to improve upon. I think that's necessary if you were going to do this type program. Maybe have that even up front so you can get a feel for your market and what's needed in your market from the lenders and from the realtors who might be using the program. And we were able to make significant changes, particularly this past year, through the roundtables. We were able to show the city that, hey, we need to increase the sales price. Hey, we need to make it previously it was not citywide for less than 80%. Now it's citywide for those that are less than 80% AMI. So there have been some significant changes to the program, but a lot of that has to do with some of the things that we were able to incorporate in the roundtables to help the city with, making some changes and approving changes. So that's all that I have. And if there are any questions, Matthew, you can.
There are. Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. Just a few questions, and just will remind folks that if you do have questions, just to use the question box, please. First, somebody asked if the city of Charlotte was able to quantify their cost savings by by contracting with you rather than doing it themselves.
They were, because they had the $231,000 that they're paying us, and we started January 2011. They had a significant amount of staff that were doing this program. Actually, they had, I believe, about 5 or 6, something like that. So they did have a cost savings. I can't tell you exactly at this point. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but there was definitely a cost savings for them giving it to us rather than, them completing, doing this program.
Great. And could you talk a little bit more about the education and counseling component? The specific questions are, what stage in the process is that happening? Is it online or in person? If you could just talk a little bit more about the counseling component.
Sure. As I stated before, the program requires 8 hours of homebuyer education and counseling. We have people who come in the program, and it just depends, because first of all, House Charlotte allows counseling to be provided by any local HUD-approved housing counseling agency. Do we get a majority of them? I mean, we get a large number of them. Yes, we do. If most customers once the file is submitted to us for the financing for getting House Charlotte, most of the customers have already completed their homebuyer education class as well as their counseling session. So as far as online is concerned, they do allow online, but it still has to be where a certificate is received from the HUD-approved housing counseling agency that shows that that customer has received 8 hours of education and counseling. So the face-to-face is required as well as the education component is required.
Great.
Does that answer?
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you. Could you just talk a little bit about the 4 dedicated staff and what their roles are?
Sure. The staff, there are 2 staff that are that handle incoming files. So they're doing total processing of the file. So they take the file from beginning to end. I have 1 staff person that handles inspection requests, because if you notice on one of the slides, I talk a little bit about their inspections, that there's an inspection, city inspection, excuse me, that is required. That inspection is sent to us, and then we send it out. The city has 2 inspectors that they use to provide that service for them. So when we get the request, we send it to the inspector, and we keep track of that, and then the inspector sends it back to us or back to the realtor that ordered that particular inspection. So I have 1 person that handles that, and that person also handles the post-closing of the file. So she handles, once the file has closed, she handles anything from that point forward. So that's 3. And then the 4th is basically a combination of staff that can work in that area. So as I told you before, with my team, I was able to use 1 or 2 other people who can work in House Charlotte, but they have other duties within the homeownership program. They counsel, they do pre-purchase and that kind of thing. So their job function is maybe 25% House Charlotte, and then the other, or 25-30% House Charlotte, and then the other is for their other duties within the department.
Great, thank you. Could you just give a rough idea of how many buyers use the program each year?
The chart can you pull that chart back up, Matt? Yeah. If you notice on the chart, what I did is I tried to break it down according to, and I don't think I gave totals. Total, the number of closed loans is the total of home buyers that use the program. So if you look on 2011, which was kind of a, at that point, I think pre-purchase was typically at a high. We did 331. Last year we were at 235. This year we anticipate to be back actually closer to the 300 mark. And the reason for that is because we just recently made the changes to the program. Like last month we had 30 closings, which is a busy month. So we anticipate to be back closer to the 300 mark this year. And a lot of that, again, has to do with paying attention to your market and making changes, incorporating changes into your program that will help that.
Great. I think you kind of went over this, but how did you get the city to see the benefit of the assistance program and to partner with your organization?
Well, it was because we already had a really good relationship with the city, and for years. But also the city knew that we were already, in our instance, we were already doing lending. So for them, it was a win for them because they didn't have to, really honestly, when we took over the program, it was just a matter of making some changes. We did a huge kickoff so that people would know that, now we're doing the program, which was great for us because it gave us that exposure. But I think, that was the reason. And we actually approached them about it. And it was a bite. They were like, well, that actually kind of makes sense. And then they thought about it. It was a couple months, but they did think about it. And they were like, it does make sense that we should administer the program. And then those same staff are still there right now, actually. But those staff are doing some other initiatives for the city. So it just worked. And the city, with those new initiatives that they were doing, they didn't have to bring in new staff. They just kind of, moved some things around to be able to do the program.
Great. Somebody asked the turnaround time from receiving the package to closing.
Our turnaround time is 10 business days. And when we get to, and it does not have to be 10, let me say that. If we get everything that we need from a lender, it can be much quicker than that, to be honest with you. So it just depends. The lender kind of creates, they create their own destiny because if they give us everything that's needed on the checklist, they absolutely could get an approval in less time.
Great. And we may not get to all of the questions, but somebody asked if your organization, so in the scenario where the counseling agency is not also a lender, what would that look like? Would you partner with a lender to get the loan closed?
No, because no, you don't have to, because what I would say is find out, one of the things I think I said earlier was about finding out from your state whether or not you're performing that function constitutes performing lending. And what we were told was that the things that we had to provide was the closing loan estimate and closing disclosure, with obviously with TRID, but it does not mean, it just depends on your state. So just because you are a housing counseling agency does not mean that you could not, do this program if you're not already doing lending. You just need to make sure that you speak with your state, and then because you're a government program, so speak with your state. You do have to get the FHA certification, which does not require HUD certification, which does not require you to be a lender at all, and just make sure that you speak with your city government.
Great. And maybe we'll just close with this, the biggest picture question, which is, how do you get paid?
How do we get paid? The city pays us on a quarterly basis. The amount of the contract is $231. So we're paid quarterly. So if you split that up into fours, that's how we get paid. So we're paid on a quarterly basis ahead of time, by the way. So we have the money, we're ahead. So we get paid at the beginning of every quarter.
So you're paid a flat fee? Is that how it works?
Correct. Any other questions?
That's all we've got.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you, everyone. And my information is on the slide, as well as the website for the House Charlotte program. But if anyone is considering wanting to do the program, I'm more than happy to take calls, and we can set up a call and discuss it. And I can give you the the some other aspects of our partnership and that kind of thing.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Ralphie. That was excellent. And of course, this is recorded, so we can you can refer back to this if you'd like through our website and our media library. So very quickly, before we close out the call, so our next call will be in 2 weeks. Well, actually, first I should do a shout out to NeighborWorks America, because they have helped us line up many of these agencies and linked us up with Ralphine and her good work. So thanks to NeighborWorks America for doing this. And in 2 weeks, we'll have Myra Martinez from the Affordable Homes of South Texas to talk about an insurance program that they are doing. And again, it's a different business that can expand and diversify your both your services and your income stream. So as we close out, we always close out with a quick nudge to join NHRC. We obviously our support and the funding that we get from you is a critical piece to our budget, and it gives us the flexibility to do especially the kind of lobbying and things that aren't normally funded by more traditional funding streams that are available to groups like us. So this is key to us, and we have a lot of new groups coming in, and certainly the NHRC CoreLogic Credco pricing discount has been helpful as well. But we hope that people are also joining because they want to just support the cause, and we do really appreciate the work you're doing out there. Certainly, to follow up, one quick reminder that right now I'm reaching out to your senators and asking that they include housing counseling on their programmatic request letter. This is the time where this will happen. So, to the extent that you can make that happen in the next week or two, that will be critical. So we will be back again in 2 weeks, and we'll have Myra Martinez with us about insurance, and I'm sure there'll be some other updates as well. We will talk to you then. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.